The film opens with a pizza delivery guy named Nick, whose job is to deliver pizzas within 30 minutes. Presently, he has to drive out of town to a secluded location to deliver pizza, which causes him to fail to deliver within 30 minutes. The kids, who had ordered the pizza, refuse to pay him since he's late, but he uses his manipulation skills to get the money from them in exchange for fetching them beer, as they're underage and can't buy it themselves. The story shifts to Nick's roommate, Chet, who is being dropped off outside his house by his date, who dares to kiss him first. Nick witnesses this from the front porch and makes fun of Chet. To pass the night, Nick asks Chet to watch the movies that he's rented, but Chet casually refuses his offer and reminds him that he is a substitute teacher who is trying hard to make ends meet. The scenes then shift to the film's antagonists, Dwayne and Travis, who are jobless delinquents testing out their crossbow and bombs on a bunch of watermelons in Dwayne's father's scrapyard. They further spend their day watching 3D movies, but Dwayne's father interrupts their session, uses derogatory terms to define their personal relationship dynamic, and tells them to get lost so he can watch football. He also humiliates Dwayne by reminding him to get a job. In response, Dwayne cusses him out for always being so cold and direct. When he dashes out with Travis, he comes across his father's newly purchased custom Ford truck, so he spits on it and walks away. Back in the main timeline, Nick visits Chet's twin sister Kate at her workplace, a decoration shop. He eats pizza from his workplace with Kate in the decoration shop and gossips about their schoolmates. That's when Kate drops the bomb about moving to Atlanta for a better job opportunity. Despite not liking the thought of Kate moving too far away, Nick bottles up his true feelings and shows Kate his support. Simultaneously, we see Dwayne and Travis hanging out at a strip club, where Dwayne accidentally confides in his lap dancer, Juicy, that he wishes death upon his domineering father so he can inherit the $10 million that his father won in the lottery. Juicy suggests recruiting a hitman for the father through her for $100,000, so Dwayne takes this offer into consideration immediately. Moving on, Nick tries to have a conversation about Kate's new job with Chet at home like an adult, but Chet doesn't take it well. Chet ends up getting into a verbal spar with Nick, exposing that he had a role to play in his parents' divorce. Nick ends up confronting Chet that he slept with Kate, which enrages Chet to the point where he jumps Nick and starts beating him up. Nick also retaliates in a very comical way. However, their fight ends when Chet reminds Nick about how big a loser he is, and that he's not worthy of Kate. Nick gives him the finger and leaves the house. As the plot progresses, Dwayne convinces Travis to be his partner in stealing some money to recruit the hitman in exchange for inheriting 50% of his father's lottery money. Travis counts himself in after hearing the offer and begins brainstorming a way to arrange $100,000 for the hitman. While they're at it, they see an ad for the pizzeria where Nick works. They scheme their evil genius plan to use a pizza delivery guy as their scapegoat and order pizza from Nick's pizzeria. Nick, who is filling in the last hour of his shift, takes the last order and goes to deliver the pizza, not knowing what awaits him. When he rings the doorbell outside Dwayne's place, he comes out in a gorilla mask, which startles Nick. Before he can run away, Travis appears behind him in a monkey mask and renders him unconscious using a laced handkerchief. When Nick regains consciousness, he finds himself in the scrapyard, with his mouth taped shut and a bomb jacket strapped to his chest. Much to his horror, Dwayne sets the bomb's timer to 10 hours and orders Nick to rob a bank within the next 10 hours. He lays out the disclaimer before letting him go that if he attempts to remove the jacket, the bomb will detonate on its own. Now horrified to death, Nick forgets about his feud with Chet and visits him at the school, where he works as a substitute. Chet finds his sudden arrival embarrassing in front of his students and thinks Nick is doing the entire charade to get back on good terms. Nick shows him the bomb and begs him to help him. Chet finally believes him and heads home with him right away. He takes out his laptop and Googles a way to disarm his bomb. Other than cutting down both of Nick's limbs to physically remove the jacket, there is no other way to disarm the bomb. Exhausted of options, Chet decides to involve the cops, but Nick looks out the window and finds Dwayne spying on him from his van that's parked opposite their house. He turns to Chet and begs him not to involve cops behind his back. They both give up in the end and decide to go along with Dwayne's plan to rob a bank. While they go to the nearest mart to purchase a fake gun, Dwayne and Travis keep an eye on them from the parking lot. Travis and Dwayne get into petty quarrels of their own, whereas the cashier in the mart questions Nick and Chet's choice of selecting objects that are usually bought by predators, so Chet buys a waffle iron to prove her wrong. Subsequently, Chet paints the fake gun black while Nick is still driving. Nick brings about stealing another car since using his personal vehicle will easily get them arrested in the process. Nick decides to steal Mr. Fisher's car, who is a friendly neighbor of Chet's parents. Chet takes it personally and asks to steal from Nick's parents' friends. This topic brings the two back to square one. Their feud. However, Chet apologizes for his part in Nick's parents' divorce and justifies that he was a loudmouth child back then. Keeping aside their personal clash, Nick and Chet break into Mr. Fisher's garage and start looking for the keys. They cause a commotion, which brings Mr. Fisher to the garage. They immediately put their masks on and point their gun at him. Poor Mr. Fisher becomes scared and gives up his car keys. Now, Nick and Chet hit the road in the stolen car. For a moment, Chet feels hungry and wishes to eat before the robbery. Nick changes his mind and drives him to the pizzeria where he works. He makes a fool out of Chet there and runs away while Chet looks after the car. Dwayne, who has been following them all along, suspects Nick and decides to detonate the bomb on his jacket, but Travis convinces him not to do so and runs after Nick, who calls Kate and asks her to meet up with him urgently. Travis ultimately runs out of breath and loses Nick. Nick finally meets Kate on a rooftop where he speaks from his heart and explains why he doesn't want her to move out. He also fills her in on his compromised life. Travis finally witnesses Nick with his girlfriend and calls Dwayne to assure him that Nick is not seeking help. Now, Nick runs back to the pizzeria and gives his boss the middle finger to let him know that he's quitting the job for good. Moving on, he arrives at the bank with Chet. Both of them put on their masks and take out their guns to terrorize the people present inside the branch. There is a single old security guard at the branch, so it is easy for Chet and Nick to dominate him. However, he throws his gun in the direction of a client, who becomes scared and throws the gun away, prompting the trigger to get pressed on its own and shoot a random man in the ankle. Nick and Chet panic for a while, but soon grab the secretary and ask her to empty out the vault for them. Nick feels generous enough to pay the guy who got shot, but their mission goes south when the first stack of cash bursts and squirts blue paint all over the guy who got shot. Not knowing the gag, they fill some more bags and head out, only to be surrounded by the cops who were made aware of the robbery when the paint bomb exploded. Nick shows them his bomb, which startles the cop and allows him to flee with Chet. The cops don't give up easily and chase their car. It gets hard for Nick to drive fast in the traffic, and he ends up crashing the car. The car flips upside down, but Nick and Chet manage to escape without getting injured. They take the bus and flee with the cash. Dwayne and Travis arrive at the scene and become relieved to find out from a random person that the boys survived and escaped. After a small dispute, Nick and Chet get back in Nick's car and call Dwayne on the number he provided Nick with earlier. Dwayne becomes excited to hear from them and arranges a place to exchange the money for the bomb. At the last minute, he changes the plan. He stops by the local diner with Travis and leaves everything to Juicy. He sends her the address via text, so she sends the hitman, Chango, directly to the told address without getting herself involved in the heist. Now things get tricky when Chango reveals his true colors at the exchange point. He plans on overcrossing Dwayne and running away with the money. Nick asks him to return the cash since he doesn't know the code to disarm his bomb. Chango takes out his gun and decides to take Nick's life, but Chet spawns from behind him and renders him unconscious by hitting Chango in the head. Following this, Nick and Chet flee with the cash. Nick calls Dwayne once again and confronts him about the betrayal. He swears to hand him the cash in exchange for the code to the bomb. Nick hangs up after this conversation without hearing Dwayne's part, so Dwayne takes it personally and decides to blow up the bomb Nick is carrying. However, when he presses the detonation code on the phone, his phone dials a movie rental place. He becomes perplexed, but Travis reveals that he blatantly switched the code with the phone number because he knows how short-tempered Dwayne is. Dwayne gets mad and starts hitting Travis, but he hits him back and knocks some sense into him. Chango also calls Dwayne shortly after regaining consciousness and threatens to come after him. Dwayne hangs up on him and tries to control his temper. Now, Travis convinces Dwayne to kidnap Nick's girlfriend, Kate, in order to take the money back from him. While they abduct Kate, Chango arrives at their house. He ends up encountering Dwayne's father, who turns out to be a retired Marine Corps veteran. He gives Chango a tough time and stabs him in the neck, but Chango shoots him in the end and moves on. He quickly disinfects and ransacks the house to find Dwayne's evil plan jotted on a piece of paper. Towards the end of the movie, Dwayne contacts Nick and makes him aware of Kate's abduction. Nick immediately gives up and agrees to exchange Kate for the money. Both parties meet up in the scrapyard at night. Nick gets rid of the bomb and gets Kate back in exchange for the cash. Dwayne decides to shoot Nick dead, but Chet aims at them from a sniper. Dwayne lets Nick walk away, but Chango arrives and knocks Nick out. He then threatens Dwayne to hand over the cash and argues over it. Chango and Dwayne engage in a fatal fight, allowing Nick to steal their cash and drive away with Kate and Chet. Dwayne follows them in his van, not knowing that the bomb jacket is in the van's back. The bomb gets triggered and sets the entire van on fire. As Nick successfully gets away with cash and friends, the film ends. I'm sure you liked the story recap. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing recaps like that.